実証雨に強いタイヤ。横浜は濡れた路面であなたの想像以上に止まる。止まる。止まる。日本最高グレードのウェット性能 A をあなたの車に。雨に強いタイヤといえば
横浜。
革新のカーボンベゼル。Bluetooth 搭載 G-SHOCK カシオ。The brightness called brilliant. Valenti.
Quality of Japanese craftsmanship. Brilliant.
What's up, guys? It's Frederick Ospo, and I use RSR suspension on all my drift cars. I love RSR. Iyo RSR Ichiban.
Kenda。伝統と革新、小倉クラッチのテクノロジーを凝縮。チャンピオンを取るためのクラッチ、小倉レーシングクラッチ ORC。
モティ
The brightness called brilliant, blinding and vivid. Valenti.
実証雨に強いタイヤ。横浜は濡れた路面であなたの想像以上に止まる。止まる。止まる。日本最高グレードのウェット性能 A をあなたの車に。雨に強いタイヤといえば
横浜。
革新のカーボンベゼル。Bluetooth 搭載 G-SHOCK カシオ。The brightness called brilliant. Valenti.
Quality of Japanese craftsmanship. Brilliant.
What's up, guys? It's Frederick Ospo, and I use RSR suspension on all my drift cars. I love RSR. Iyo RSR Ichiban.
剣だ。
伝統と革新、小倉クラッチのテクノロジーを凝縮、チャンピオンを取るためのクラッチ、小倉レーシングクラッチ ORC。
モティー。
The brightness called brilliant, blinding and vivid. Valenti.
Well, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be, across the nation, around the world. This is the G-Shock Presents Formula Drift Japan Championship Round 3 at Fuji Speedway. I am Ryan Sage, alongside judge and commentator Ryan Lantane. And from what you see on the screen there, the storm has come our way and certainly hit ground here and has caused us to cover up. We got the rain jacket on, but it's very humid in here.
It is.
So I was just walking from the paddock. Ryan, as we set the scene for today's top 32, let's quickly go through some of the updates that came through overnight into this morning. We had the storm come in and made some predictions about when it was really going to get nasty, and it seemed to be falling right into our top 16 schedule. So we've decided to cut out the halftime portion of the event, or rather, the promoter has decided to cut out the halftime portion of the event to try and get the best possible conditions for the top 16. So for fans at home, this might be good for you because we usually have a 2 to 3 hour halftime break for Formula Drift Japan events. What we're going to do is, assuming that we get through the top 32 without being delayed or any call from the track, since they do have rain rules here, even for drifting vehicles, we will finish the top 32. We'll do a quick 15-minute reset break, and then we will get right into the top 16 introduction. And that should potentially be about 12 a.m. Pacific Standard Time if you're watching on the West Coast. So right now it is 1:28 Japan time here at Fuji Speedway. And you are listening to the English broadcast on Facebook and on the Formula Drift website. You can also watch the Japanese broadcast that features Manabu Arito, Tom Saiba, and Yoichi Imamura on the Formula-D.jp website. That'll take you direct links out to YouTube and one of their other channels. Ryan, let's get into the action from yesterday before we kick things off here. Our top 10 qualifiers, really interesting, especially as we started getting into the night, but we did see some regular faces stand out to us. But in that 60 driver car field, it was tough all around.
Yeah, so looking here at Kubo in his S13, 10th place qualifier. He was luckily out when it was a little bit lighter. Then you have Sheng Yan in his JZX 100 in 9th place while we get rained on inside the tent here. Did a pretty good job out there. Really like the way his numbers light up on his car when it's dark. And then in 8th place here we have Matsuyama in his JZX 100 as well. And you can see that inside clip is a vital part of the track. The guys that were getting in on it were getting much higher scores because it was worth 10 points for line and angle. Imameda here in his S15 in 7th place. And you can see he was a little bit late on that outside zone there, but managed to be really smooth throughout the course. Next up, we had Saito, not that Saito, but a different Saito in a 180SX in 6th place. Nice transition there. Did a good job on outside zone 2 and tight on inside clip number 1. Next up in 5th place, we had Kanta Yanaguida with his new 2JZ engine in that car. Used to be in an SR powered car, but definitely able to get the most out of that car now, with, especially on this big track, with much more power from that inline 6 engine. Next up in 4th place, Tamagawa in the Supra. Really smooth, very fast driver. I've always liked his style, and the car looks pretty cool too. But he was able to put together a 4th place qualifying position. Interestingly enough, right here, Fukada in the dark put in the 3rd place qualifying score. So he was able to do it in the situation where it was a little more difficult for some people, but it seems like he likes to operate on muscle memory more than what he can actually see. And then we have Yamashita here in 2nd place with his JZX 100 Mark II. Look at the transition, the car positioning. Those clips were placed right on the edge of the track, so they were getting hit a lot yesterday, but he was able to put together a good score. And then we have Matsuyama in his S15. So he ended up in 1st place, and look at the conditions that he did it in as well. The lights were not ideal last night. We've got them much better set up for this evening if we do end up going into the darkness. But he ended up putting together a really good score, great transition, a score of 92 points for the top qualifier. And he's, as we said yesterday, been sniffing around the U.S. a little bit. He was in Evergreen Speedway last weekend and potentially vying for a position in the roster for next year.
And all of us are definitely salivating at that potential opportunity. As we take a look at the start line up there, you can see where the hot pits are located for the top 32 competitors. And just to bring some additional context into some of the storylines that came out of yesterday, if you weren't joining us for the broadcast, we started a little bit later than we have today, so whether you were up or not. We had the 60 cars enter competition. We started qualifying with 57 after some DNFs and some no-shows, and of course we whittled that down to 32. One of the interesting things that started to play a big role, seemingly for a lot of the drivers, were the track conditions changing as we went from day to night. This is the first time ever that we have done a nighttime event at Fuji Speedway. It will be what we saw last night, the only time that actually is going to happen, because the plans for that have been scrapped in favor of trying to actually finish the event. Fuji Speedway, one of the more well-known large tracks in Japan, along with Suzuka, under different governance than some of the smaller tracks that we go to, and they have a stipulated rule which we're not exactly sure how strongly it's enforced, because it's hard to know the measurements, but 3/8 inch of rain falls in 1 hour, they will halt the competition. So in all the predictions that we've seen, and in talking to the track staff that are here in Japan and the people monitoring the weather, this window of time that we have to move the top 16 forward by cutting out the halftime break seemed like the most prudent thing to do. Right now it is still wet and rainy, but we are going to get right into the top 32. The drivers have had about 50 minutes of practice in conditions that are relatively similar to what you're seeing now, and that is shortened down from about an hour and a half in order to accommodate the new time frame that we want. So we are all crossing our fingers here that we're able to finish the event in the way that we would like to. But this is Japan, and this has been the standard operating procedure pretty much for almost every single one of the events that I've ever been to in Japan, and particularly the past year or two, where at least one day has had a massive threat of rain or a tremendous amount of rain at one part of competition. So last night, relatively dry. We saw some good smoky runs. We did get to see some cars run under the lights, which was pretty interesting. But today, we've got thick clouds overhead, pretty continuous rain with bouts of heaviness every few minutes or so. So we're going to kick things off here. Our first driver up in the lead position is Wataru Matsuyama. Ryan just talked about him as our #1 qualifier. And the driver to his left is Hayato Miyoshi. Now, Miyoshi had a tough time in qualifying yesterday, but let's recall, for those following closely the Formula Drift Japan Championship, he's currently 3rd place in points. So this is a very significant battle right here, and something that we do often see, and that we kind of anticipated, Ryan, with some of the drivers struggling as we've seen them struggle with this track in the past.
Yeah, drivers that were doing well on some of the smaller tracks. Suzuka Twin is a relatively small track. It's fun because it is so, you can see the whole thing very easily from wherever you are around the track. But it's a much shorter, smaller, lower speed track. Ebisu circuit, it has a faster initiation than Suzuka Twin, but it tightens up as well, right? Now we're on this big sweeping course, like we were talking about yesterday, that is not easy for a lot of drivers to get around. First of all, because of the visual, it's very hard to see all the way around the track, and also because of the differences in the elevation change. That's kind of hard to see from the footage you're seeing online.
Championship battle underway here. First and third place, Matsuyama in the lead. Miyoshi, we see with that Sans front bumper, that actually happened yesterday in practice, and it looks like he's getting a little bit aggressive there in the chase, almost surpasses Matsuyama. Matsuyama has come on strong this year, really balancing out his high-level qualifying with some great tandem runs. And with nobody impeding in front of him on the first run, he looked pretty solid in the lead position.
Matsuyama looked really, really smooth on this run. He did not look like he was stressed at all. He looked like he had the car exactly where he wanted it. He was very set in terms of angle. You can see the front wheels are making no motions, no movements whatsoever. You can see he initiated early here. In the chase position, Miyoshi elected to initiate a little bit later, which he's totally allowed to do as long as he does it by that one cone. But you can see Matsuyama up front, perfect line, looking really, really solid. And unfortunately, Miyoshi just didn't get himself positioned properly. He didn't go all the way out wide on outside zone 1, so he was mid-track there as Matsuyama was where he was supposed to be. So really didn't get himself positioned very well, and that's going to be not the ideal position for Miyoshi to be in the chase position, because it really put him in a bad situation for transitioning out to outside zone number 2. So you can see there he's off the zone, and he really is not positioned properly. A lot of corrections, a lot of bobbles there. The car's not looking settled, whereas in the lead position, it's just a very calm-looking driver up front from Matsuyama. So I think Matsuyama is going to have a big advantage here, although we don't compare lead to chases like this. Generally, just looking at what we saw there, Matsuyama just has to put together a decent chase run, within good proximity, but just mimic what the lead driver's doing. Well,
I like what you said this past weekend in Seattle. You said in a certain battle, you said the lead driver fulfilled his goals better than the chase driver in that particular run and the chase driver goals.
Right, exactly. Very well said.
All right, so switching things up here. So far, this looks doable. Still wet and really slippery out there. And this track, in terms of the way that it operates, is pretty much exactly similar to that of Long Beach. We have the drivers go counter course after their battle. Off to the side here, we saw Matsuyama and Miyoshi actually kind of forget about that. So took them a while to get back, but here they go. Miyoshi now taking the lead. Big battle here for the championship on the line. Top 2 drivers meeting in the 32. Somebody's going to be disappointed here as Miyoshi gets out to that first outside zone. Matsuyama looks like he's playing it pretty smart here. A little bit of adjustment from angle from him, but trying to mimic as best he possibly can. Capitalize on maybe the mistakes that Miyoshi made in his chase. Miyoshi looking good out front and right past the yellow 2 standing cones is your finish line. And let's take a look at this replay one more time, Ryan, and give us some insight here to how both drivers did in their respective positions.
Comparing those positions is what is key to the judging aspects here. We're looking at who did a better job in the lead and who did a better job in the chase. So lead to lead, I'd say they were not so dissimilar. Look at Miyoshi here in the lead position, did a good job on zone 1, might have hung on to it a little long, did a good job on zone 2, might have been off on inside clip inside clip number 1, but in the chase position, I think, is where the strongest case is going to be made for Matsuyama here. He was looking very calm. He was mimicking what that lead driver was doing, going where the lead driver was going, and really copying what he was doing, despite that lead driver making a couple of mistakes on line and angle perhaps. Matsuyama was right there with him and put his car in the right position, really, in the chase position. So I think Matsuyama is going to get the win here just based on what I saw and what I input anyway. I don't know what the other guys did, but we'll see here in a couple of seconds.
So Brian Eggert joining us here this weekend, replacing Andy Yen, who's off at some personal matters. Ryan Lantane, as you mentioned, he was our line judge last night. And, of course, Robbie Nishida, a standard judge for us over here in Japan, also serving as a driver's steward back in the United States. And so looks like we're waiting for the official scores to come in. And here we go. Looks like everybody's in now. And 1, 2, And all 3 judges in unanimous fashion go to Wataru Matsuyama, car 530, who's continuing to stake his claim and assert his position as a contender for the 2019 championship. Current standings right now see Andrew Gray out front with a slim margin. He had some challenges in the first round at Suzuka Twin, came back with that win at Ebisu. But it is a very close race so far. So now we move on to our 16th and 17th place qualifier respectively. Car number 16th place finishers on your right-hand side in the lead lane. That is Yoshiya Isaki. And next to him is Teruyoshi Iwai, a new competitor here at Fuji Speedway.
If I was giving points for design and style of the car, Iwai would get my vote. Man, that FC3S looks good.
Yeah, well, was it 4 or 5 in competition that we had last?
Yeah, 4 FDs and 1 FC, so pretty impressive.
So there we go, the ode to Justin Pollock in the chase position here, but it is Isaki in the lead. Heading past that last standing cone. Here we go into the first outside zone. Slow rolling it. You can see the driver's real. Oh, and there's a big mistake. Iwai in the chase position. The front end washed out there as he tried to transition into that second outside zone. And even with this two-turn course in front of everybody, the challenges that we've seen in wet and dry conditions certainly always a factor here. And no question, one of the biggest aspects of that is really getting the timing right into outside zone number 1, because it seems to set up the entire course.
You're right. And what's interesting about qualifying to today is that everybody qualified in absolute dry conditions yesterday. So if you're really strong in the dry, now you're coming to the wet to do your competition. And it doesn't necessarily mean that the higher qualifier in the dry is going to be the better driver in the wet. But looking here, we saw that in the lead position there, Isaki kind of made a mistake on outside zone 1. Didn't really fill it fully. And in the chase position, we've got Iwai trying to stay with him, but making a huge correction as he transitioned from zone 1 to zone 2. So that'll definitely be a big deduction for Iwai in the chase position in that FC3S.
Well, one has to wonder also too what kind of setup change and also the tires that are being used in these conditions. You know, we've made a lot of over this past season the increase in tire manufacturers in the Formula Drift Japan Championship. Up around 12 or 13 now. Was the last count it was 11, and we saw 2 new manufacturers come in this past round. Very diverse compounds, tread patterns, all across the board, and they certainly have played a big role in some of the success that we've seen with certain drivers. And you have to wonder how that the wet conditions is going to change the overall setup, the tires that are being used, things of that nature.
Yeah, some tires are killer in the dry. They are built for dry performance. They have large tread blocks, not a whole lot of siping there, not a whole lot of evacuation for the water when it does come to the wet driving, so they don't always transfer over their solid performance in the dry to a good wet performance. And some drivers opt to change tires when they're going into the wet because they know their dry tires are that poor. And I don't know specifically what tires these guys are on, but I know you can just look at some of the ones that we have here on site, which have the small dimples on half the tread. You know, those dimples are not going to be evacuating much water. They act like little cups that actually pool the water under them as opposed to evacuating the water. And the key here is to evacuate the water so that the actual tire contact patch can be on the surface of the track fully, as opposed to hydroplaning. And that's partially what happened, we think, at Ebisu when Suinaga went off the track. He came in a little too fast, and instead of having grip there, he just floated across the water, hydroplaned essentially, and ended up, combined the speed, perhaps he was going a little too fast, with tires that maybe weren't ideal in the wet conditions.
Well, here we go, switching things up. Iwai going to the lead, Isaki chasing him down. A steady stream of rain still continuing to pour down on this track, creating conditions that are quite a bit to deal with here. Iwai headed out, and pretty good job estimating the appropriate amount of speed coming into that first outside zone. The second outside zone, he's a little bit short there. And look at the separation now with Iwai getting out front, lower angle in the chase position by Isaki. And even with that big mistake in the chase by Iwai, he fights back in his lead position. And we'll have to get some deeper analysis on that, Ryan. I'm wondering, did Iwai have an incomplete in his chase, from your perspective?
Oh, no, not in his chase. I was thinking of, yes, yeah, you're right, Iwai. The FC in his chase did opposite drift on the first run. He You could see the car go to angle in the opposite direction. The car kind of bobbled from side to side there, and definitely had an incomplete in the chase. And now as he goes to the lead position, he actually does a good job, and you have to wonder if he just had too much grip in the chase position to be able to maintain drift behind Iwai. So as we see both drivers come around, you can see Iwai going wide there, nice and wide out to outside zone 1, misses outside zone 2 completely, unfortunately. He's mid on inside clip 1, but you can see there he's drawing a big gap between himself and Isaki. So that's what I was referring to. Maybe because he is driving a faster car with more grip, when he was in the chase, he just wasn't able to make that transition at the speed they were going, which made him grip up and get that incomplete.
So Isaki would have needed to incomplete in his chase in order to force a comparison of the lead runs, basically.
Essentially, that
from your perspective, yeah.
100%, yeah. And I don't think the gap was great enough between both of them. Okay, so Robbie was going with a one more time here. It's just the computer system did not respond to his input. So Robbie was saying one more time. Brian and I both said Isaki due to the incomplete from Iwai.
All right, so that was your 16th and 17th place qualifier. We are 2 battles into the top 32. Thank you for joining us wherever you are around the world. We've got a full bracket for the top 32, which we did whittle down from 60 drivers yesterday, which was a nice 4 and some change hour qualifying that took us into the night, into lighting conditions that have never been utilized here at Fuji Speedway, so that was interesting to say the least.
That must be one of our longer qualifying sessions, isn't it?
I think so. I was coming into it, I was thinking it was going to be like 4+ hours, and it was right around there, but I wouldn't have been surprised if it got to 5. So it looks like we are getting a notification from one of the track staff that there is going to be a scratch in this next battle. Is that correct?
That is correct. So Matsuyama is going to have a bye run. It looks like Shinichi has bowed out. I don't know if it's a mechanical problem that he's encountering with that car, or I saw a couple of cars that gone off during the practice session, and I think Kazama was one of them, and I missed the other couple of cars that went off. So not sure if it was just a break or perhaps a result of an off-track excursion. Okay, so the number 8 qualifier, Hokuto Matsuyama, is going to be your winner here in the top 32 after the scratch from Yumura Shinichi. He was our 25th place qualifier. We'll try to dig into that more and find out whether or not it was a scratch from a mechanical or something of some other nature. But as we preview this next battle, you'll like this one quite a bit if you've been following the series here for a while. The ever popular and really well-developed driver now that we've seen compete in Pro 2 in the States, it is Shang Neon. He finished in 9th place yesterday in qualifying. He's going to be taking on another popular driver here in Japan, Yoshitaka Ogane. So this is the other FD that Ryan was referring to. And Shang, from a historical standpoint, was the last winner here at Fuji just 1 year ago. He beat Andrew Gray in the finals in a pretty fun battle that was high in spirits for sure. The two teammates drift a lot together, and Shang's dad was here. There were some tears shed. It was a really awesome watershed moment for him. But we are trying to line up these next 2 vehicles here after the scratch. So my assumption there with that is that we just found out that Yumura Shinichi scratched, and that's why the other guys were not in the burnout box. So I think that's accurate, Ryan.
Okay.
It seems like nobody knows what happened to Shinichi.
He just disappeared?
Didn't show up to the start line, so we don't know if there was a mechanical or anything else happened, but he was not present at the start line when he was supposed to be, so they looked for him, they couldn't find him, which is nicer than we need to be, I guess you can say. For the most part, we say you need to be at the start line when it's your time, or we will skip your turn if we can't find you or a team representative if they want to call a competition timeout. And in this case, they couldn't find anybody, so we just are going off to the next battle. So there we go. You see Sheng Nian in his JZX 100, warming up his tires, get himself prepared for this battle. And then Ogane in his FD3S will be doing the same.
The 2 Singaporeans in competition Shang and also Benjamin Chiam had a pretty interesting qualifying session last night. Benjamin was in a highly pressured situation with an incomplete on his first run that really, I think, from all perspectives up here, just saw him just unadjusted to the changing conditions. We saw every ounce of practice for these guys coming into Friday rather, was in dry, hot conditions with not a lot of clouds out. Qualifying was a bit different. We had the conditions starting to cool down. We had a little bit of sun here and there, but then it got cloud coverage and dark pretty quickly. So it was really tricky to figure out exactly what to do. Shang was able to pull out a pretty good qualifying position at number 9. Even after his first run, but a lot of pressure on Benjamin Chiam, who had that incomplete on run number 1, came back and qualified 19th. We'll see him on the right-hand side of the bracket coming up a bit later. But there he is, Yoshitaka Ogane, our 24th place qualifier, going up against Shang Nian.
So I've driven with Nian up in at Ebisu quite a bit, and he's very aggressive, we know, from his experiences here. But he gets extra wild in the rain, so I can't wait to see what he's going to be able to put together here in the rain in the lead position. He just needs to stay within the course boundaries. That's been a few drivers' problems here. It's very easy to overshoot outside zone 1 because it is invisible essentially from the early portion where generally people are initiating a little bit earlier, and you come around that corner and you're hoping you're going to be in the right spot.
Yeah, take a look off into the foreground of your screen. Right about now, you'll see the 3, 2, 1 cones. The last standing initiation point, 3, 2, 1. They need to be sideways by there. Shang way early, as we've seen, and nicely measured there at that first outside zone. Ogane very close, nearly touching on that transition. So good battle so far, but he's going to come up a little bit short and go off course prior to that one and only inside clip. Shang pretty measured here in his lead position, and with a good start from Ogane, he was not able to pull it through and maintain that consistency.
That was a really great run from Nian. Like you said, he measured it perfectly. He got out to outside zone 1, exactly where he needed to be, on the right line with the right angle. No corrections from the car, so it's not like he was surprised by where he was on the track. He knew exactly where he was, and Ogane trusted him. You can see that he was right there with him, only about a car width away from him. So you can see Nian right on that rumble strip, which is a risky move in the rain. Ogane transitions, but doesn't quite have the momentum to get himself around there, and goes kind of straight and at least 3 wheels off before inside clip 1. So that's going to be an incomplete for Ogane in the chase position. And Nian in the lead now has a huge opportunity here as he goes to the chase position. All he needs to do is follow Ogane. As long as Ogane does a complete run, Nian just needs to follow him around the track, be within relative proximity to him and mimic what he's doing around the track and not make a big error like that, and he's going to get the win here. It's not he doesn't have to do anything extraordinary here. He doesn't have to be, he isn't at a disadvantage in this situation. So he still needs to have that proximity. He still needs to push enough to show that he's making that effort, but he really doesn't need to do anything extreme in this position right now because of Ogane's incomplete.
And it's worth reminding everybody, as you mentioned it or implied it there in what you last said, is that if we do have a situation where a chase driver incompletes behind a lead driver, naturally, the lead driver does need to finish the run. However, if a lead driver incompletes in front of a chase driver, the run would be over at that point. If we ever see 2 of those situations where 2 chase drivers incomplete, then the judges can do an analysis of their lead-to-lead comparison. If we see that both lead drivers have incompleted, that because the runs were stopped prematurely, that would mean it was an automatic one more time.
Trying to get word here if we're doing a 5-minute competition timeout or not. I'm not sure what is happening at the moment here. We're trying to get some information from the officials that are up here with us in the tower.
Got some classic heavy hitters up here. Matabu Orito and Yoichi Imamura of FD fame. FD car, that is, plus other cars. Up here in the Japanese announcing booth, along with our Japanese head announcer, Tom Saiba. So they are just about 10 feet away from us. And there you see on your screen is the competition director in the United States, Kevin Wells. He's also helping all of the competition staff here to understand the rules that have been written for the FD Japan series. And there you go. That international signal for a competition timeout. The 5 fingers. So it looks like they are going to call a competition timeout. And that will probably remove Shang Nian from the line.
It seems like Ogane was saying I can't see because my interior's fogged up, and Kevin kind of said, that's not my problem. If you want to call a competition timeout, you got to call it now or get back to the line. So there he is, back on the line.
So that's a no. They did not have to take their competition timeout. Basically kind of gave him an opportunity to get back to the line immediately, right?
We'll have to talk to Kevin and get maybe Kevin can tell us on the radio if that was considered a competition timeout or not. It is? Okay. Here we go, second part of the battle.
All right, so Ogane now in the lead position. Rocket ships out of the gate. Shang Nian on that tighter line on the inside. There's the 3-2-1 cones. Gets that initiation, stays sideways, reaching out to this outside zone. Don't go too far. He drops a tire just a little bit, but Shang hanging back, playing it pretty good here. Remember, Shang, oh no, Shang's got big angle. He's going to go off course too. He's going to incomplete in the chase, and we just talked about this. Now we're going to have a lead-to-lead comparison. We just mentioned this exact scenario, and it always seems to happen when we mention it.
Yeah, why'd you mention it? So now that we have these 2 incompletes in the chase, going to the lead runs, we're going to have to see who did a better job. Now, Ogane here definitely made a mistake. He went wide early, so you can see where the outside zone 1 markers are, and you can tell that he was wide way before that. So look here, he's already on the rumble strip way before that, drops a tire, does get into the zone, but I think he probably left it early, makes a mistake on outside zone 2 there. And then not too bad through inside clip 1. Wasn't super tight, but ends up finishing the run. And then the chase position, Nian is trying to hold everything together, but unfortunately doesn't. So, that could be a result of where the lead driver led him, but it's also possible that it was just Nian's fault for not being able to get around there. So we're going to have a look at this, and I'm going to confer with the other 2 gentlemen here. Give me 1 second.
So I think, we are hearing that they want to watch the first run one more time just to get a accurate and refresh the memory on the lead-to-lead comparison. But that's what is going to be going on here. It seems as if the vibe is going towards Shang, but Ryan, here's the lead run one more time.
Yeah,
walk us through your intuitions here.
So what I'm looking at here is where Nian is on the track. You can see that he did an awesome job in the lead position. What they want to see is if Ogane actually went 3 wheels off at inside clip 1, which you can see there, 1, 2, 3, almost 4 actually. So that will determine whether or not that was an incomplete from him for them. I had already established that personally, but that's what they were looking at, and we've all got our votes in now. So we'll see what the screen pops up as here.
All right, well, never be surprised. Anything can and does happen here in the wet conditions. So here we go. Let's make it official. Brian Eggert goes to Shang. That'll make it official there, and it is unanimous. All 3 judges across the board give the win to Shang Nian. He'll be moving on into the top 16, so car 54, currently situated in 9th place in points, making good progress here in the top 32 with the win.
Yeah, Nian was kind of lucky that Ogane did his incomplete first, but of course it comes down to watching where that lead driver is going. If the lead driver makes a major error like that and is way offline, I don't think in this level that Ogane's lead could be considered an unchaseable lead, but definitely his lead could have affected Nian's chase, right? So if you look at Nian's lead, Nian did an awesome job. He put the car exactly where it needed to be. Ogane had no reason to do an incomplete in the chase run, whereas watching Nian following Ogane was pretty poor in outside zone 1 and had to stretch to make it around inside clip 1, and for the chase car that could be considered harder.
Well, the battle of the Supras, Benjamin Chiam and this driver here, Tamagawa. Tamagawa got the edge in qualifying, 4th place position. He is taking on Shoya Saito. No relation to Daigo, as we mentioned last night. And look at this. Huge gap, but I think it's going to be a restart. I think that's the behavior of Tamagawa indicated that to me.
It does look that way. Cone touchy.
All right.
Robbie, cone touchy, pylon touchy. Trying to get some words from Robbie.
So So the reset or the restart light is actually set by the starter there. You can see that he triggers it by radio if he does see any of the chicane cones hit by the lead driver only, or if the lead driver does jump the light prematurely, he can trigger that. We do have our restart light actually situated on the 3, 2, 1 cones, so you'll see that prior to initiation since the 3, 2, 1 cones are quite a ways down the course. And we will get them reset to go. Here we go. Tamagawa, Saito.
Clean start, looks like.
Clean start, and once again, Tamagawa does get that good jump. This time around, early initiation in the wet. Looks strong and aggressive here. Big gap being established coming up the hill into this blind outside zone. Nicely done there. Tamagawa continuing his thread of solid lead runs here from qualifying and into his head-to-head competition. And unfortunately for Saito, we got to pan all the way out to see that discrepancy in proximity there. So Tamagawa making it look easy against car 408 of Saito.
So it was confirmed that it was a pylon touchy from Tamagawa in the lead on the first run. We did the restart, and here it is, the second run. In the lead position, Tamagawa did a good job. I don't think he was trying to get away in any way whatsoever here. He was fulfilling the lead driver goals. You can see him get out to outside zone 1 right here. Gets right on that rumble strip, so that's perfect. But in the chase, you have to give Saito some credit. He is doing the exact same thing, just at a great distance. So he's not really making any mistakes. I think maybe he was a little wider on inside clip 1, but a significant gap there established between Saito and Tamagawa. So Tamagawa now, when it comes to him chasing, all he has to do is close that gap, get a lot closer to Saito. Saito needs to run at least as good of a lead run as Tamagawa just did. And that was a pretty high quality lead run. He was right on the proper line. His transition was good. We saw no real corrections in his front wheels. So he's doing a really good job up front. Can't really say anything bad about his lead run.
All right, so we are resetting the cars, going counter course. It'll now be Saito in the lead position against Tamagawa, as they are now back to the starting line. You can see the hot pits in the background there. There looks like Andrew Gray didn't have the greatest qualifying session last night for him. Actually bowed out of his second qualifying run. And we will see him in just a few battles. He'll be the second battle on the right-hand side of the bracket. We're underway here for the second run between Saito and Tamagawa. Saito on that higher line. Tamagawa taking that inside approach. Really right up against the edge of the course is Saito. Getting it sideways, trying to get the timing right, and comes a little bit unglued as he gets onto the rumble strips there, and much less grip in those areas. You can see that at first pass, Tamagawa definitely has much better proximity. The lead run from Saito looked not too shabby, but certainly in that first outside zone, Tamagawa seemed to have much more consistency and did not get out into the rumble strips and have that kind of hesitation.
My initial feeling about Saito's lead is that he was wide on to outside zone 1, but he was wide too early. So if you watch where his car is positioned, he's very wide here already, even at the 3-2-1 cones. It's kind of a line that not many people are taking. Look how wide he is on that rumble strip way before the zone, and he drags it out. Now Tamagawa in the chase position gets a little bit choked up by that, and I don't think it's necessarily Tamagawa's fault. Looking at what the lead car did, the chase driver is supposed to follow the lead, but the lead is also supposed to set the pace. He's supposed to set the proper line and show that he's able to run the proper qualifying line in the lead position. And I don't think he did a very good job of that in that situation. Saito definitely had an error there, going wide early on that rumble strip and causing a bit of a hesitation from Tamagawa in the chase. And you can see that he dragged it out really long on that rumble strip. He had some corrections there in angle as well. But we'll see that the reaction here from the judges. They haven't put their results in yet, so just waiting for them to input their results, and we'll see who comes out on top here.
All right, hot and muggy and rainy day here at Fuji Speedway. We are well into the top 32 with quite a few battles under our belts now, and Yoshichika Tamagawa gets 1, 2, and 3 votes, so he will be moving on into the top 16, defeating Shoya Saito. Car 408, a valiant effort, but unfortunately came up a bit short here against the 4th place qualifier of Tamagawa.
And this shows the importance of putting together a good lead run. Because we put so much emphasis on that lead run. If the lead run is poor, we can't really blame the chase driver 100% for errors that they make if that lead driver's errors impact the chase driver. And I think this is the perfect example of that. The lead driver there, Saito, could have done a better job in the lead. He could have fulfilled the lead driver goals much better, made some compromises, some errors there, and we can't really hold the chase driver responsible for the lead driver's mistakes like that.
Especially if they're within proximity, right?
Exactly, yeah. If they're close together like that, 100%.
All right, so 2 females in competition last night in qualifying. One made it through. She is the driver on the left side of your screen. Masayao Miiniwaa taking on Monkey Ito. 13th and 20th place qualifier. Here we go. Ito in the lead position, gets that early snap into initiation. Masao opting for a little bit later there. She needs to be sideways by that last standing cone. Oh, it looks like she's got some understeer in the vehicle. Ito, unfortunately, does not get out to that first outside zone, so mistakes by both drivers, but possibly an incomplete from Miiniwaa in the chase by not initiating. And as we finish up this run, you'll see a little bit of separation there. Ito, much better job on that final outside zone, but a lot of the content that the judges are going to be looking at seem to happen either right around initiation or just a bit after initiation.
Yeah, looking at what Miiniwaa did in the chase position, she wasn't really at angle where she should be. You can see she tried to get to angle a little bit before the 3 cone right there. Then the car straightens up again. You can see those front wheels come to 0, and then she gets back to very low angle before pouring it on at outside zone number 1. In the lead position, though, Ito did not do a great job of fulfilling the lead driver goals. You can see he was off outside zone 1, outside zone 2, inside clip 1. He did put a tire on the rumble strip at outside zone 3, but that was really the only place where he fulfilled the lead driver goals. And you can't hold him responsible for Miiniwaa's mistakes, let's say, because her initiation was her own fault right there. You can see the lack of angle, and you can see here she slowly gets herself to big angle by outside zone 1, but it might be too little too late. Unfortunately, that could be an incomplete from her very easily.
All right, so both drivers heading back to the start line to grid up for the second half of this battle between Monkey Ito and Masao Miiniwaa. Her husband is also in competition, Shinji Miiniwaa, and she almost out-qualified him last night.
Yeah.
Shinji Miiniwaa came in at 14th place. We're going to see him in our second-to-last battle in the top 32, so he's on the right-hand side of the bracket.
It's a good-looking car, too. She's driving the JZX 100. He drives the JZX 90. His is yellow and black. Hers is white and black. They have the similar paint scheme, similar racing suits, too. Just keeping it all in the family.
Here we go, second half of the battle. This time Miiniwaa is in the lead position, heading out through the chicane. Good jump here. Let's see how she approaches the initiation this time. Gets it going a bit earlier and commits to it. A little bit of separation there. Ito,
great line,
is not going to get out and fill that zone in the way that Miiniwaa did. Has a little bit of a hiccup in the chase position. Miiniwaa looking much better and settled this time around as the lead driver. But is it going to be enough? I think it's really going to come down to whether Miiniwaa incompleted in her chase run. But no real indication from the judges yet. Ryan, tell us what you think. Give us some insight to what's going on in your brain.
I think you're absolutely right. It comes down to her straightening in the chase. She did put together a pretty decent lead. You could make the argument that she had a better lead, actually, than Ito did. So if you look at where she got to angle very early there, but look at where she goes on outside zone 1, right on the rumble strip, perfect line. She does have a bit of a bobble because it is very slippery when wet, but you can see that she missed outside zone 2 a little bit. She was a little wide on inside clip 1, but less so than Ito was on his lead. But in the chase position, he did not incomplete, and that's, I think, what it's going to come down to here. Because of her incomplete in the chase position, it's going to be weighing pretty heavily towards Ito for me.
All right, so we're up here with the 3 judges, Robbie Nishida, Brian Eggert, and Ryan Lantain, separated from each other with 3 tablets that they're entering their scores. And this time, once again, they go unanimous to the left-hand side of Monkey Ito. So, as you mentioned, Ryan, it seems like the incomplete from Miiniwaa was agreed to across the board from all 3 judges.
He is very fortunate that she did that, because had she not done that, I believe it could have easily gone her way due to that much better lead run. And she did not do terrible in the chase when she was in the chase position, other than the straightening up there just after initiation. So that was her fatal flaw, unfortunately, in that run, in that battle. But otherwise, he missed a lot of key points in the lead, and in the chase wasn't really matching what she was doing 100% either. So yeah, that incomplete from her is what saved him, essentially. So he's going to have to make a much better effort in his next battle when he goes up against Tamagawa in the top 16.
Well, to the business at hand, this should be an interesting one. We got the transformer-looking vehicle there of Katsuhiro Ueo, who did not have a great qualifying session last night. It is noted that he was stuck in a position where he had to go out into the really dark conditions and didn't really have an opportunity to have 2 consistent runs back-to-back. He's taking on Kanta Yanaguida, the young kid with the new power plant, looking very strong, our 5th place qualifier, heading out into that first outside zone right at the edge of that white line. Ueo keeping the pressure on, but you can see making some adjustments very close there, almost some contact coming through that first inside clip. Yanaguida unfazed, stays in it, fills that final outside zone, and it's a classic battle of new school versus old school here. Katsuhiro Ueo has had a good season so far. He's just outside 4th place in points, but walk us through this first run, Ryan.
Ueo is a wild man, and you do not want to give him an inch. But looking at what Kanta did in the lead position here, you can see that he gets out to outside zone 1. But what I did not like so much from him is that he hung on to that angle very, very long. Look at where a lady transitioned. He was almost in the zone when he transitioned, and because of that, he was very late in that zone. But he somehow managed to get into inside clip 1 and fulfilled the rest of the course. But I don't think that was a great line from Yanaguida. He hung on to the angle from outside zone 1 far too long, and was almost pointing in the opposite direction when he entered outside zone 2. So that transition is really, really long. Look, you can see Ueo waiting to transition. Ueo barely got into that outside zone number 2 in the chase position, but Kanta did not do a great job in that area.
All right, so you see both drivers heading back counter course to start the second half of this battle. Ueo has been a new addition to Formula Drift Japan this year and has been very fun to watch for more reasons than I can think of. Not just the driving, but we are seeing the drivers. No? Okay. I thought we were thinking about maybe a competition timeout there, but
considering the turning radius these cars have, they made a really big loop there to get that car turned around.
Yeah. But back to Ueo. Oh, there we go. We got a little course marker being cleaned up. Ueo has just been super fun to watch this year. He kind of came into the series and was pretty quiet around the paddock, but very loud in competition, and gave some great interviews about what he wants to accomplish this year. And so he's been very, very fun to watch. And with Yanaguida, we've been talking him up for a number of years now. He kind of felt that the car was underpowered and needed to step up, so he moved into 2J. And it looks like so far it is paying off for him. We know that he made a trip last year to Irwindale Speedway with about a party of 15 to kind of check out the U.S. series. And there's been some rumors he's been snooping around a little bit, but nonetheless, he's been super fun to watch and grow into the sport. Here we go, second half of the battle. Katsuhiro Ueo, Kanta Yanaguida. Ueo gets it started early, right to angle. Yanaguida does not want to let him run away. Wet conditions prevailing here. Not too shabby there, stays in that zone a bit late though from Ueo, but nice transition to that second outside zone. Yanaguida keeping the pressure on here. Even in these wet conditions, a good bit of driving as both drivers keep the angle through that final section of that third outside zone. And that was a fun one to watch there, especially towards the latter half.
Very similar runs here, Ryan. You can see that Ueo hung on a long time after outside zone 1 and ended up hitting the second cone there in outside zone 2. So you can tell he was a little bit late on zone 2, kind of like Kanta was in his lead position as well. So looking at where Ueo is placing his car, he's right on that rumble strip. Look at that, just a tire maybe touching the grass there slightly. but did a good job of positioning his car wide all the way through the course, nice and tight on inside clip 1. Might have done a better job there than Yanaguida did in his lead, and right on the rumble strip, right through the finish line, was Ueo. So in the chase position, it looked like Yanaguida did a good job of mimicking what the lead driver was doing, maybe slightly better than Ueo did in his chase position. Look at the transition here. Yeah, there was a little bobble, a couple of little straightens from Yanaguida there. You could see that it actually went to pretty low angle in that area. I'm going to ask for that replay again. 1 second.
So Ryan Lantane, here he goes. He's asking for a secondary replay, which is the judge's right. We did have 2 drones this weekend, since sadly they cannot be used. We got the big overhead and the high-speed drone. So high-speed drone actually can't be flown in certain parts of Japan. So we were going to have the overhead, but unfortunately it is unable to be operated in the rain. So this is the replay here that we'll see from the camera shots that are set up on this course. So a really important battle here. Ueo doing very well in points.
So this is the view I want to see. Hopefully they stay with this camera to get the view from the rear of the whole action section that I want to notice here, which is the transition. Just looking at Yanaguida's car as he goes to transition here. Yeah, he kind of goes to 0 for a second and then reinitiates again. So a bit of an error there from Yanaguida. It looked like Ueo may have almost made the same error, but did get the car rotated instead of the stall up that Yanaguida made in that area. So it's going to weigh heavily on Yanaguida, that straightening there. Not ideal in a transition situation like that. So let's see how the other 2 judges voted on this one. I know they got to see the exact same replay I did, and we'll see if they caught the same thing that I did.
And it is going to be almost unanimous, but a split decision there with both Brian Eggert and yourself, Ryan Lantane, going to Katsuhiro Ueo. Robbie Nishida goes one more time, but it will be enough to move Katsuhiro Ueo into the top 16, and a disappointing loss there for the young prodigy of Kanta Yanaguida after a great qualifying session yesterday. He's going to be knocked out early in the top 32. And Ryan, we anticipated some of these things happening in the bracket lineup with so many of the regular drivers struggling to adjust to the changing conditions. We're seeing a lot of top drivers meet early on in competition.
Yeah, like I was saying earlier, the difference is that they practiced a little bit in the rain yesterday, but everybody qualified in 100% dry conditions. Now we're competing in the rain. Not everybody's as good in the rain as they are in the dry, or vice versa. So you're going to see some people that are going to mix things up a little bit right now in the competition side.
Jin Hirino and Ikao Saito. Saito having some struggle in the chase position even before the last standing cone. Hirino had some good qualifying runs yesterday. He came in at number 12. Extends past that outside zone a little bit, has to really kind of try to late apex that inside clip, but it's still going to be a little bit wide there. And on the inside line, passing Orino is Saito. So a wild and crazy start to this battle here, our final battle on the left-hand side of the bracket in top 32.
Ryan, we've seen some problems in Seattle based on passing after the finish line, and can get a little bit dicey. So let's see what happens with these 2 guys. You can see in the lead position there, Hirino getting to angle. In the chase position, Saito choosing to do it a little bit later, which is he's allowed to do. So Hirino late on outside zone 1 and hangs onto that angle for a long time. You can see he misses the beginning of outside zone 2, and of course because of that goes wide on inside clip 1. In the chase position there, Saito, of course not that Saito, but he does almost pass him before the finish line comes up, but it looks like he does it afterwards. So you can see there Saito getting to angle by the 1 standing cone. And then looking at the line that Hirino has drawn there, it's very, very long past outside zone 1, and then getting to outside zone 2 late. And looking at what Saito's doing in the chase, not a bad drive there from Saito in the chase. Not as close as we'd like to see him, but not far enough away that it's a problem in terms of chase-to-chase tandem comparisons.
Well, we will switch things up here, and if you are just now joining us, we're almost about halfway through the top 32. It's 2:20 local time here in Japan. Typically, we run qualifying on the Saturday of a Formula Drift Japan event, but this is a unique situation. always at Fuji Speedway. We are part of the bigger overall weekend with 86 Fest going on out here. Some familiar faces like Frederick Osbo driving in the event. So we're having fun out here and hoping that the rain subsides so we can get some good drifting and good action in. Switching things up as Saito's in the lead position. He's on that wide line, already initiated. Orino in the chase, trying to follow him into that first outside zone. He misses it, and this time around, Saito looking pretty good. Some mistakes by Orino, really falling back now, not able to keep pace.
Oh, no.
And a little bit tight. Oh, and pulls angle out towards the end. Saito looked strong in that lead run prior to coming into that last outside zone, and he went a little bit deep there, and then he pulled angle out. Ryan, how do you see it?
It almost looked like Saito pulled angle out to avoid going off the track, but pulled too much out. It looks like he straightened up completely before the finish line, before even leaving outside zone number 3. So let's look at the beginning of the run first, of course. Saito does a good job getting to angle there. Harino's trying to maintain pace, running less angle, not really that close. You can see Saito here really hanging onto that angle. A lot of drivers are doing that there, and I'm not sure why in the lead position, but getting very late in outside zone 2, which left him off of inside clip 1. You can see here he almost goes tires off and then completely straightens before the finish line, and then in the chase position, Harino does almost the same thing by going off track with a couple of tires there. But definitely on Saito, an incomplete for him in the lead, in his lead run. And in Harino's lead, I wouldn't say that mistakes that severe were made. So I'm going to have to go over to my little judging tablet here and input my score, input my result. But I think that straightening by Saito at the finish is going to be a huge factor here in the judging. So incompletes have been kind of a thread being developed here in the rainy conditions, and with the incomplete from Mikao Saito, which looked like he was starting off pretty well in his lead lap, unfortunately not able to close it out, and that means that Jin Orino is going to be moving on. We're halfway through the top 32. It's traditional time for us to take a commercial break. We will come right back to the G-Shock Presents Formula Drift Japan Championship Round 3 at Fuji Speedway after these messages.
実証雨に強いタイヤ。横浜は濡れた路面であなたの想像以上に止まる、止まる、止まる。日本最高グレードのウェット性能 A をあなたの車に。雨に強いタイヤといえば横浜。
革新のカーボンベゼル。Bluetooth 搭載 G-SHOCK カシオ。
The brightness called brilliant. Valenti.
Quality of Japanese craftsmanship. Grid.
What's up, guys? It's Frederick Osbo, and I use RSR suspension on all my drift cars. I love RSR. Iyo RSR Ichiban.
Kenda.
伝統と革新、小倉クラッチのテクノロジーを凝縮、チャンピオンを取るためのクラッチ、小倉レーシングクラッチ ORC。
Motors.
The brightness, called brilliant, blinding and vivid. Valenti.
And welcome back to the G-Shock Presents Formula Drift Japan Championship here at Fuji Speedway. Thankfully, Ryan, the rain has somewhat subsided here. We got the kids out playing.
And there's no wind anymore, right?
No, and the wind has died down. It's a steam box in our room, but hey.
We're sweating it out.
It's all good. So hopefully this will continue, and we'll see some drier conditions here, but we are now on the right-hand side of the bracket in the top 32. Koichi Yamashita, your number 2 qualifier, taking on Matty Hill, car number 96. Matt had plans to be at all the rounds at Formula Drift Japan this year, but unfortunately this has been the first one for him, in by the smallest of margins, making it the 31st place qualifier. So he's got a lot of work to do here in the top 32. As you can see, he's warming up his tires and heading to the start line against Yamashita.
Yeah, he was supposed to compete last year in FD Japan, and he, I believe, dropped a trailer on his foot. I think that's what it was, the tongue of the trailer perhaps, with a car on it, and broke many bones in his foot last year and was not able to compete. Suffered through, 6 to 8 months of being in a cast and on crutches and everything, and now he's back in the driver's seat again this season, and he's finally here competing in FD Japan, which is something he's wanted for quite some time.
All right, so best wishes from his hometown. Many people chiming in support of Matthew Hill, car number 96, and can make a statement right now if he's able to take out the current 3rd place in points. Well, actually, no, I don't want to say something wrong.
All right, there's your sheet. It's a little wet.
5th place in points, Yamashita. Matty Hill on that inside line. A little bit of an adjustment there before we get to the 3-2-1 cones. Yamashita blasting out ahead. Good pace from him, right on the white line. Looks smooth and consistent out front. He's going to come up a little bit short on that second outside zone. Gives a little bit back to Matt, but now you see that big separation from Matthew Hill and Koichi Yamashita. And so Matt is going to have to hope for a stronger competitive lead as they switch things up. But Yamashita, with that seemingly solo mistake on outside zone 2, looked pretty good there, Ryan.
Yeah, you can see Matty's got trouble putting the power down here in the wet. Not really able to match the pace of Yamashita coming up to initiation. Yamashita on the lead position, goes up all the way wide to outside zone 1, right on that white line. Very precise, because that's what we told them. It's all they had to do. And then doesn't quite go all the way out to outside zone 2, slightly off inside clip 1, but a great job on outside zone 3 as he finishes the course. Matty Hill doesn't do a terrible job in the chase position in terms of the line that he's following, but just can't keep up to Yamashita, so his proximity has suffered significantly there. So look at Yamashita from back here, right on the white line. Couldn't have been any more precise there. Was a little bit off on zone 2. Matty does match what he's doing, but just at 8 or 9 car lengths behind. So in the transition over to Matty leading now and Yamashita chasing, Matt in the lead does need to run a very high quality lead run, because that was pretty solid from Yamashita. He's got to get out wide to outside zone 1. He has an opportunity where he can better outside zone 2. He has an opportunity where he can get a little bit closer to inside clip 1. But in the chase position, Yamashita just has to close that gap. He has to mimic what Matty's doing around the track, but he has to do it at a closer proximity, and that's how he's going to win the chase-to-chase comparisons.
All right, so here we go. Green light. Actually, red light diminish means go in Formula Drift Japan. And Matty Hill out of the gate. Yamashita keeping it close on the inside. Does not want to let him get away. He knows what he needs to do here to win this battle in the top 32. Matty Hill's going to get just right out to that line, but it's a little bit late of the zone. Oh, and Yamashita makes an adjustment in the chase. Was that due to anything involving Matthew Hill? So we've got some deeper things to look at here as Matty Hill will finish up his run. Let's take a look at this again, Ryan. Walk us through it, your first thought process as we try to find out a winner between Koichi Yamashita and Matthew Hill.
You can look at what Matty's doing in the lead position. He's trying to put power down again, trying to get up to speed. You can see the cars kicking out very early to angle there. In the chase position, Yamashita's much more able to maintain proximity before they even initiate. And there you can see Matt very, very late on outside zone 1, essentially missed it. But in the chase position, Yamashita did incomplete. That was a complete opposite drift from him there. He went to 0, went beyond 0 in the opposite direction, and then came back to angle in the right direction. So that is definitely an incomplete from Yamashita. Let's watch it from behind. This will probably give us an even better view of Yamashita's error, and it'll give you a better indication of where Matt was supposed to be. See, he missed the zone entirely. He was way off. Yamashita grabs a big handbrake. Huge mistake from Yamashita. So you have to wonder, was his big mistake due to Matty being offline, or was that an independent error from Yamashita?
Things to look at here. All right, well, lead driver does dictate the pace. Chase drivers should be following them wherever they go, even if they do go offline or make a mistake. Needing to mimic the lead driver as best that he can. And the judge is asking for a secondary replay here. It's obviously going to come down to that interpretation on the incomplete from Koichi Yamashita. So Ryan, having a little discussion over there with your counterparts, what are you guys talking about?
Well, the two questions. First of all, is this an inactive chase from Matt Hill, being in the so far back in the chase? And also, was Yamashita's incomplete in the chase position his own fault, or was it due to Matty being way offline at outside zone 1? So those are two things that are weighing heavily on the other judges and myself right now, trying to figure out if one thing affected the other so seriously that that incomplete could be forgiven, or the fault being given to Matt for that, or was that just strictly an independent mistake from Yamashita in the chase position?
Now let's just say the other two judges also think that both drivers incompleted because of the inactive chase, and independent on Yamashita. Now we're talking about the lead runs.
Exactly.
Again.
Then you're going straight to the lead run comparisons. And, to be honest, the lead runs, it looked like Yamashita did a better job doing that in the lead position. So we'll see what the other judges came up with. I think all the scores, all the votes are in. So we will see the results very shortly here. Yeah, it looks like Brian definitely voted that way, and so did Robbie Nishida.
So explain that one more time so we understand that completely.
So it looks like the other judges also looked at the distance between Matty Hill and Yamashita when Matt was chasing as an incomplete. It was too far back. There was no tandem there, so that is an incomplete for Matty Hill based on the the criteria of incomplete or inactive chase. You also gave an incomplete to Yamashita in the chase position for that bobble that he made, that error that he made in the chase on the transition. Now that means you go compare the lead runs. And who did a better lead run? Yamashita by far did a better lead run.
All right, so a big battle there. Yamashita really flirting with disaster. And Matty Hill will be knocked out in the top 32. And we're going to be moving on to another significant battle here. Kazuya Iizuka, the wide body A5, going up against current points leader Andrew Gray. Iizuka had out-qualified Gray, and Gray falling behind already from the onset. Iizuka shooting out to that outside zone. Pretty nicely done there. You can see the wet conditions still playing a role, but Iizuka looks fairly strong here. He's going to be a little bit late on that inside clip. And now comes Andrew Gray, but he's on much more of an inside line. And surprisingly, Gray, known as being a really dominant chase driver, gave a bit of room there to Iizuka out of the gate and through that first outside zone.
It looks like he was not able to keep up as well as maybe he anticipated. You can see the gap already being established here before initiation. And then Iizuka does a fairly good job on outside zone 1. He's right there. He kind of drags it out long, though. You can see that even though Andrew Gray's a little distance behind him, he transitions at the same time. So he's got good mimic, even though he's not directly behind him, just because Iizuka did it so late. Now Iizuka does go very long in outside zone 2, off inside clip 1. So let's watch it from this perspective. You can see Iizuka goes out to the rumble strip, so does Andy Gray. And watch the transition here. See, Andy's more on the line that he should be on. He didn't go, not super wide out to 2, but neither did Iizuka. And then through the last outside zone, it looked like Andy was on a bit of a tighter line, but he did get to inside clip 1 better than Iizuka did, because Iizuka went wide on it due to being so late on outside zone 2. So mistakes being made by both drivers, and we'll see how Andy does when he gets back into lead position now.
Well, the Audi A5 of Iizuka was certainly a smashing hit at our first event of the year at Suzuka Twin. And a lot of people didn't really know what to expect. And I think the development over the past couple of rounds has really started to show that the car can be competitive.
That's surprising in the first year like that for a brand new chassis with a car that's never really been competitively drifted around the world anywhere.
Yes, extremely unique. And as we mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast, Ryan, this is kind of an atypical battle that you would see in the top 32, but it gives you an idea, if you didn't watch the broadcast last night, just how crazy qualifying was with all of the changes and going into the night. So another tough one. Andrew Gray this time in the lead. Iizuka chasing him down. Early snap right there by Gray. Iizuka keeping the pressure on, not letting Andrew get away. And big angle in the chase position there by Iizuka, but Gray gets out to that outside zone. This is a great battle here. Both drivers fighting for this position in the top 16. This is obviously very critical for the championship in a 5-round. Oh, and Iizuka unwinds some angle right at the end of that outside zone. And a critical mistake there towards the end. Let's take a look at it again.
That may be the little mistake that Andrew Gray was hoping Iizuka would make in the chase position. It's impressive to see the level of grip that Iizuka has in that A5, whereas something like Andrew's JZX, he's been driving for years. He's developed it so well, very powerful, and that A5 is able to stick right with him. Andrew does a great job on zone 1, hangs on a little bit long, gets into outside zone 2, slightly late, but much better than Iizuka did in his lead, and then gets to inside clip 1 better as well. You can see Andrew right on that rumble strip, but Iizuka here, right at the finish line, ends up taking a lot of angle out of the car, and I'd like to see that again maybe, but let's look at it from the other angle, from the backside here from camera 1. So looking at where Andrew Gray's going, beautiful job on outside zone 1, but Iizuka's right there with him. You can see a couple of bobbles from Iizuka, but really not making too many serious errors in the chase until he gets all the way around over here to the finish line, and just before that finish line makes a big correction in angle.
Well, Iizuka, a hard-fought battle, but it seems as if, at least at what you're saying, Ryan, that he may have handed Andrew Gray the advantage overall and potentially the win there in the last, 25, 30 feet of the course after outside zone 3.
Yeah, right at the finish line. That is, I think he was between the outside zone finish and the finish line itself. That's how late this was.
Brian Eggert goes one more time. So a little saving grace here. Oh, it is going to go one more time, and the outlier is Ryan Lantain. So the other two judges, hey, Ryan, reach over real quick and just get a couple notes from them, and we'll report back to everybody. All right, so we got the battle lined up here, but I want to hear it from the other two perspective. We are going to see that battle again. Selfishly speaking, that's cool, but let's hear it from Ryan.
Yeah, it comes down to the comparison lead to lead and chase to chase. They didn't incomplete Iizuka for his correction at just before the finish line, whereas I did, and that was the changing. That was the thing that changed their minds as opposed to mine. And they gave the lead to Andrew Gray. They gave the chase to Iizuka, and the vice versa of that, I believe. And that's why they ended up going one more time. One driver won the lead run, one driver won the chase run, and that's why they voted the way they did.
All right, so we will see that one more time. It is a split decision, so not a unanimous vote across the board. And I think I agree with some of your sentiments, Ryan. I think that was, definitely a opportunity, or this one more time battle will be an opportunity here that he may have not received in regular circumstances for Kazuya Iizuka, very much floating with an incomplete there towards the end. So, all right, we'll switch things up here. Takatoshi Imamaeda and Tomoyuki Kitashiba, number 7 and 26 respectively. Imamaeda has looked really good in qualifying, some great practice runs, and he's got a huge gap established here. Gets out to that outside zone, onto the rumble strip. Kitashiba nowhere to be seen, and Imamaeda is running away, but not running away because he's running a tight line. He's doing a good job on this course, and you can see almost 10 cars of separation there from Imamaeda, car number 145, in the lead position.
Yes, big separation here from these two drivers. And it seems to be the story today with the wet conditions. Some drivers maybe didn't get their cars set up properly. Maybe the tires that certain drivers are running that are such amazing high-performance dry tires just don't perform that well in the wet. Whatever the case may be, whatever the case is, you can see what the result is. Big separation in a lot of these drivers in the lead position there. Imamaeda getting out wide to those zones. May have been late on zone 1. Pretty good job there near inside clip 1, but oddly enough in the chase, you can see Kitashiba actually getting closer to that inside clip 1. As they get to the finish line, big gap between these two drivers, maybe too much depending on your perspective, but we'll have to see what happens in the next run of this battle, because as we've seen, it doesn't mean just because you have an advantage in that first run that it's going to go your way in the second one. It could be a pretty big upset here, and pretty big spread in qualifying positions here. Imamaeda in 7th, Kitashiba in 26th, so we'll see what happens when that 26th plates qualifier goes into the lead position now in that Sunoco GT86.
And Kitashiba did look very good yesterday as well, at least in terms of his first run of qualifying. Still came in at that 26th position, but I can remember some attributes of the run that definitely seemed like he had a good lock on this course, but not really holding pace with Imamaeda in the head-to-head matchup here in the top 32. Both drivers have been given the signal. The light is extinguishing, and here we go, the second half of the battle.
You saw the chase jump there. He is totally allowed to do that.
Imamaeda trying to stay close to Kitashiba, wants to keep the pressure on. Tight line there by Kitashiba in the lead. And Imamaeda is at angle, a pretty extreme angle. He's going to be coming up really quickly here. He may even surpass. Wow. Bit misjudged there by Imamaeda at first pass. And as they head into this final outside zone, massive angle by Imamaeda, who smartly holds it there. And in the lead position, that could be looked at as a unchaseable lead run with that much angle, but in the rain makes a big difference here. So let's go through this replay.
As we watch the replay, I'll be looking at where Kitashiba was in the lead on outside zone 1. Was him doing something wrong the cause of Imamaeda going on a weird line there, or was it strictly Imamaeda's own fault? So it looks like Imamaeda's got more angle and just never makes it out to outside zone 1. Imamaeda's just on the wrong line. He's not mimicking the lead driver at all. Really made him an error in judgment there, and not putting the car in the right place, not positioning himself where he should, not really fulfilling the chase driver goals. He's not mimicking what the lead driver's doing. Part of what you need to do in the chase is mimic the line, the angle, and also the transition points. And in that case, it didn't look like he mimicked the line or the angle at all. Wasn't really doing a very good job of matching what the lead driver was doing.
Well, the prudent thing there for Imamaeda may have been just to give a little bit more room to Kitashiba and close a door midway through outside zone 2 or even inside clip 1 because of the gap that was established. That's where a spotter becomes really important to relay that information. It may cost him here. Let's go to the judges. One more time from Brian Eggert. And it's going to be a second one more time. All three judges unanimously going to the one more time option. So back-to-back one more times here. Unfortunately, one more times generated more so from mistakes than super close runs that were equally good. And as you see the line there, a solo car. We received a note during the commercial break that Kazuhiro Kubo will be driving this one by himself as Toshihara Kazama, the famous Kazama auto driver, bowing out of competition.
He had crashed in practice.
He crashed in practice, and unfortunately is not going to be able to continue on. So it is going to be a easy run into the top 16 here for Kubo as we let him run his lap here in the top 32.
We want to see a run from him here, but we want to hope also that he doesn't do anything crazy and damage his car on essentially a warm-up lap for him. This is not judged. He's left the line, so automatically he moves on. This is just a run to prove that his car does work. And you can see there, not really getting out fully wide to outside zone 1, a couple of bobbles, very late on outside zone 2. So this is kind of like an extra practice lap for him. Not a lot of pressure on him. He's not really under any stress to win a battle, just has to get around the course.
Well, now's the time to remind you, if you're just joining us, we are in the top 32. We are not going to take the traditional halftime break that you see both here for FD Japan and FD USA series, as we are trying to beat the weather. The system and the typhoon that has been kind of plaguing us throughout the weekend here and there seems to be getting more intense right around the time that we had planned the top 16. So we are going to forego the top 16 halftime break. We're going to have a 15-minute break after the top 32, reset everything, and then we will be back for the broadcast and the opening ceremonies of the top 16. You will, if you are watching on Facebook, you'll get a secondary notification. It'll be a separate stream for the top 16. It will not be the one that you're watching now. However, if you're watching on the Formula Drift website, just refresh after we end the broadcast, and the new player will be up. That same procedure should go also if you're watching on the Japanese broadcast, or you're switching over to that. Just refresh or join the new notification that goes out after the top 16.
So I knew I had seen Sobagiri before, and it was at an MSC event that I judged last year at Suzuka Twin, and he had earned his FD Japan license through MSC last year. They were building his car, getting it ready for FD Japan, and missed the first 2 rounds, and here he is in his first round of competition in that car, that 831 Skyline. Yeah,
a lot of people really digging that car. I dig it. Looks awesome, and it is no easy task here against Tadahiro Fukada. A big difference in qualifying. Fukada came out solid, 3rd place qualification last night. Kudai Sobagiri, 30th.
And I believe Fukada was on the podium here maybe 3 years ago at Fuji. I think he got 2nd or 3rd place quite a few years ago here now, but he has had some success at Fuji Speedway in the past.
All right. So waiting for the signal up here in the tower for the starter to get things moving. After this, we've got a one more time battle to revisit with Kitashira and Ima Maeda. And then after that, we've got 3 more battles in the top 32. Here we go. Fukada out of the gate, gets a good jump. Sobagiri better get on it, and he is left in the dust. And this is no question going to be an inactive chase, but it's not going to be an intentional one. It's going to just be really unable to do any kind of comparison here with the lead driver so far out front. You can see the cameraman having to pan really far out just to keep the 2 cars in the screen there. And unfortunately, for such a beautiful and awesome looking car, I'd love the performance to be the same as the looks.
I agree, Ryan. I don't know if it was just a driver error here trying to get up to speed, or if it's really that much of a difference in power. Hard to say. Well, I guess we'll see on the next run if they are a little bit better matched. In the lead run, Fukada gets almost out to that white line, so almost out to the minimum that we were asking for the drivers to do, almost out to outside zone 2. A little off of inside clip 1. You can see Sobagiri there doing not a bad line, maybe a little bit early apexing that inside clip, which sends him out to outside zone 3 kind of early, but don't really think it's going to be much of a... It's not going to have much bearing on this run because it was so far back that I'm almost certain the other guys are going to agree that would be an inactive chase, unfortunately. So Fukada now just has to put together a closer run than that, really. You don't want to have him far back either, risk an inactive chase of his own, but I'm sure he's, looking at the level of power difference, if that is indeed what the issue was there, he shouldn't have any trouble keeping up to Sobagiri. As Sobagiri goes into the lead, he needs to do as good a job or better than Fukada did in that outside zone 1, outside zone 2, and through inside clip 1 to the finish line. So we're going to have to see how they match up here as they go in the second run of this battle.
Well, this should be a walk in the park here for Fukada. He knows exactly what he needs to do. Hopefully his spotter has given him some notification. Don't push too hard. Don't inactive chase. Just give yourself some room here. And it looks like he's playing it smart here so far, but a pretty solid start here for Sobagiri, as he, at least in the lead run, is looking pretty phenomenal. He's going to over-rotate at that inside clip. And once that rotation got past a certain degree, it was going to be too hard to follow there. It will be most likely, Ryan, from your perspective, I imagine, unchaseable lead.
Yeah, he did spin out completely, went off the course, so that'll be one of a few different incompletes if you want to look at it in that way, but definitely an incomplete from him in the lead position. You can see Fukada has no trouble keeping up, going up to the initiation point. He actually had to back off a little bit so he wasn't too close to give him a little bit of room. But you can see that Sobagiri went a little bit wide on zone 1. Fukada didn't go wide enough, but he was able to transition for zone 2 and keep angle in the car. But you can see there, Sobagiri was just over-rotating. There was no way he was going to make it through there. He spins out, goes 4 wheels off, straightens. So those are the multiple incompletes you could choose from Sobagiri.
And assume we're going to see Robbie Nishida go to the left as well. He does. It is a unanimous victory for Tadahiro Fukada, who after his third place qualification continues to impress here. He moves on into the top 16, and he will be facing the winner of our next battle. But it looks like we are going to revisit the one more time between Andrew Gray and Kazuya Iizuka. A tough battle for both drivers, a split decision in the result. And now you can see a little bit of the reflection of the sun peeking out through the clouds.
But a really dark set of clouds around us, Ryan. It's kind of a eerie look right now.
So the track is still significantly wet. The rain has subsided here, but we're still not going to see any smoky runs. So drivers have got to be cautious. And look at that, blasting out of the gate is Iizuka, Andrew Gray. Just like the first time around, that big separation there. Iizuka looking for that nice, solid, clean lead run. Does a pretty good job on that outside zone. Gray has a little tiny flub and angle coming across, but now making it look good. Tightening up on that inside clip. Iizuka out front fills that final outside zone right on the white line as Andrew Gray follows him out there as well. So Gray's strategy may have been to give some room there, but did he give a little bit too much and allow Iizuka to stay out front for a longer period of time than he anticipated? Let's take a look at this.
It just looks like that Audi is that much faster because of watching the first run. I don't think Andy was trying to give him room. I think he's struggling to kind of trying to keep up. I didn't expect that Audi to be so fast. I don't think he did either. Looking at the transition there, good job by both drivers. Iizuka might have been a tad late on outside zone 2, but Andrew this time is mimicking much better. He's staying on the right line. He's matching what he's doing, and he was definitely closer this run than he was on the first run of the first battle. So definitely a better tandem there from Gray. We'll have to see how he does in the lead position now.
All right, so switching things up, we know that the big mistake from Iizuka towards the final part of the course was a deciding factor in both the one more time and for Ryan actually giving an incomplete. So Iizuka has an opportunity here. He has a good solid lead. He's going up against the current points leader in the championship, and this would be significant for the other drivers that are not Andrew Gray if he were to get knocked out here in the top 32. Only 2 events remain after Fuji Speedway. Moving on next to Okiabuki in the mountainside here in Japan, and then finally right prior to Irwindale Speedway in October, we head to the infamous Okayama. So not that many rounds to collect points overall. So this is very important for the championship. A top 32 out would be huge for Andrew Gray. Iizuka keeping it tight on the inside. Needs to be sideways by that third standing cone. Both of them are. Iizuka, big angle coming up the hill. Gray right into that outside zone on that white line. Iizuka keeping the pressure on, does a good rotation there trying to mimic. He's also pretty close on that inside clip. This is going to come down to the wire, and Iizuka keeps the pressure on Andrew Gray through the finish line. And he does not disappoint. Iizuka looking strong there, not only in the development of the vehicle, but also as a driver against the current points leader.
Who would have thought this Audi in the first year could put up such a battle? We know that Andrew Gray's car is a rocket ship, and I just did not expect the Audi to be able to do what it's doing here today. Not to say anything bad about the driver, but just the car's development. He's able to stick with Andrew through outside zone 1, outside zone 2. Great transition, great mimic, and he's actually getting himself really positioned for inside clip 1. You can see the proximity. The car is settled. Andrew's doing a great job in the lead, but Iizuka's right there with him, and Andrew unfortunately was not with him like that in his chase run. So this may be what everybody in this championship right now is hoping for, and that's Andrew Gray being knocked out in the top 32, and it looks like that is exactly what's happening right now.
Big news here in Japan as our current points leader, Andrew Gray, has an early defeat in the top 32 against the wide-body A5 of Kazuya Iizuka. Coming into his own, it has paid off for him here in the wet conditions, showing both incredible speed and grip in the vehicle, but also excellent driving against arguably the best driver in Formula Drift Japan history, the 3-time champion of Andrew Gray. So that puts an end to that. We'll go back to the one more time between Takatoshi Imamaeda and Tomoyuki Kitashiba, but we are all holding our breath here, and still a bit of amazement there that that car has come so far, so fast, as he takes out Andrew Gray in the top 32.
I was just asking Robbie, and he said that they're running the same tires on the rear of those cars, so it's not a tire issue in terms of grip. It must just be the way that car's built as a pure race car, as opposed to a sedan, which the JZX 100 was. Maybe that's the level of build that can make it do what it just did.
One more time battle, the two T's, Imamaeda and Kitashiba. This time Imamaeda knows he's got to fix that mistake that he had in the chase position. Can he do it here? He's going to drop a tire, and the second one gets, what's going on
Very
now?
sloppy.
Oh.
Yeah.
It almost seemed as if that was a signal for a restart because of how slow Imamaeda was coming through that section of the course, but in the lead position there. And to add insult to injury, a spin past the finish line. So we've got an incomplete before outside zone 2. But Ryan, walk us through the details here.
Yeah, Imamaeda just made a big mistake there. He went a tire off on outside zone 1, and it looks like it put him on the wrong line going to outside zone 2, which wasn't going to allow him to get to inside clip 1. So watching him come around the corner here, didn't look bad at this point, but then goes a little bit wide there. You can see potentially 2 tires off. Gets on that rumble strip and gets them all out of whack. You know, that rumble strip can get very slippery when it's wet as it's painted, and doesn't provide the same level of grip as the asphalt does. And then he ends up opposite drifting and spins past the finish line, as you said. So that's definitely going to be an incomplete for Imamaeda. And we'll have to see how Kitashiba can hold things together when he goes into the lead. And Kitashiba was not super close there, but once that error was made, once that incomplete was scored by Imamaeda in the lead position, it automatically ended the run. So anything that happened after that point was kind of inconsequential to the battle. And there is Iizuka pulling in after his win against Andrew Gray.
So the man of the moment there, Kazuya Iizuka, getting some congratulatory handshakes from his staff there. Little fist bump. He is hyped.
Yeah, he's excited because he just won 3-time champ Andrew Gray. Andrew Gray did not win the championship last year, but the previous 3 years, I believe it was, he did win the championship. So beating Andrew Gray is a big deal, especially in the top 32. Taking him out of competition so early, you're going to be ruining, his chance at getting those very vital championship points to get him up on top of the heap again. Right now, he is leading the championship, but I believe that's going to come to an abrupt halt right here at Fuji Speedway.
Oh, no question that it will, and it was already really tight on the points because of the diversity that we've seen in the podium in the first 2 rounds. So a mix-up here, and Ima Maeda with that incomplete in his lead run right at outside zone number 2, or right prior to that, has put Kitashima in an amazing position here where all he needs to do is get through his lead without having an incomplete.
And Ryan, it's starting to rain heavy again now, so this might have an important bearing on this battle right now.
All right, so Kitashima gets that early initiation. There's the 3, 2, 1 standing cones. Ima Maeda is drifting past the outside of Kitashima. He's going to almost drop a tire off course, but keeps it on. Kitashima gets out to that second outside zone relatively well. He's going to be a little bit late on that inside clip, but as we approach the final moments of this course, 3, 2, 1, that's going to do it. Kitashima gets through the course without incompleting. And you're right, Ryan, it looks like the rain has started to pick up once again, and also getting some wind this time. But let's take a look at this second run here with Kitashima in the lead.
It just comes down to Kitashima getting through this course without incompleting in any way whatsoever, and that is what he does essentially. If he was able to get through this run, not incomplete, he would definitely have a huge advantage and potentially win this battle. So you can see there Kitashima gets out to the white line, maybe a little bit late, but nothing too incomplete. A little bit late on outside zone 2. Gets in, within a car length maybe of inside clip 1, and in the chase position you see Ima Maeda falling back a little bit, not incompleting himself, but definitely not putting on enough pressure to cause Kitashima to incomplete in the lead position.
Let's make it official here. Tomoyuki Kitashima, car number 48, moving on into the top 16. He's going to be facing Kazuhiro Kubo, who had that bye after Kazama was not able to make it into the top 32 after a crash in the practice session.
That's a pretty big upset here, Ryan. 26th place qualifier, knocking out the 7th place qualifier. And I think that's only the second upset we've had today. The first one was Katsuhiro Ueo taking out Kanta Yanaguira. Ueo was the 28th place qualifier, and he took out the 5th place qualifier. But other than that, we've had the higher place qualifiers beating the lower place qualifiers up until this point. So 2 upsets so far today.
Well, this is another big battle here coming up to the line because of the 2 drivers that are at the line, of course, are drivers you would expect to be contending for the championship. Shinji Miiniwaa and Benjamin Chiam, another tough top 32 battle here.
And we were talking about Andrew Gray qualifying low. Yesterday what happened in his second qualifying run, he was warming up his tires and went onto those rumble strips right there, which actually debeaded his tire. So he was not able to perform his second qualifying run, which left him in the lower qualifying, a lower qualifying position for him, 18th position. So typically he wouldn't have gone up against somebody like Iizuka so soon. He would have been much higher qualified and gone up against a much lower qualified driver in the top 32. So that definitely hurt his chances there last night, and his fate was sealed today in that battle with Iizuka.
All right, so drivers are set to go. Benjamin Chiam trying to get a little bit of a jump here. Shinji Miiniwaa, one of the top drivers in the sport. He can strike here with Andrew Gray going out, but he's got to get through Benjamin Chiam. Heading up the hill, both drivers sideways way before that last standing cone, a little bit on the inside of that outside zone. Benjamin Chiam doing a pretty good job, but straightens and loses a little bit of angle there right at outside zone 2. He's going to go wide at inside clip, and with the angle, he's going to let Miiniwaa kind of run away there towards the end. And as the winds pick up and the rain gets a little bit more nasty, the drivers are having to deal with changing conditions pretty much in real time. Let's go back and take a look at this again.
Yeah, Shinji does a pretty good job in the lead here. He could have been a little tighter on some of the zones, but he wasn't trying to get away. He was fulfilling the lead driver responsibilities and doing an okay job of it. You can see he could have been a little bit wider. He was at the outside edge of that white line. In the chase position, you see Benjamin here wash out as he's coming to inside clip 1, and that causes him to fall off quite a bit. Shinji was on a much more efficient line by inside clip 1, was able to maintain his momentum and not slow down as Benjamin had to in his chase. So watching here from the rear, you look at how wide that Shinji goes. He's not quite as wide as he could be. Did an okay job there on outside zone 2, and this is where unfortunately Benjamin goes wide and misses inside clip 1 and falls back significantly before the finish line.
Well, with the rain coming down now, it's certainly, as we saw the sun 10 or 15 minutes ago, not going to give us any patchy conditions, which at the bare minimum, at least, you know, that'll be relatively consistent, right?
You're right. It's almost like we just passed through the eye of the storm. We had this earlier. It got nice, the sun came out, and now everything's blowing back in. It was weird. The winds calmed down, the rain stopped, and now it's all picking back up again. So I know that we do have some limitations on wind here as well. The track will shut things down if it's too windy, if there's too much rain. So hopefully we stay below that threshold and we can get through this competition today. Yeah, certainly, and it wasn't looking good coming into the weekend, but in Japan in general, my experience here with these events is that you never know until you actually get through or get to the point where you got to start the competition. Every event that we've done this year, last year, has all had some threat of rain, some crazy storm, some typhoon, something. But here we are. We're almost through with the top 32. We're surviving. We're managing. Benjamin Chiam is in the lead now, and Shinji Miiniwaa will chase him down, looking for that position in the top 16. Very important points on the plate for both drivers. Chiam right out to the rumble strip. Miiniwaa makes that adjustment. Great job on the transition to keep proximity there, even in these really wet conditions. A little bit of movement in the front wheels by Miiniwaa through that first inside clip. Benjamin Chiam fills that zone, but Miiniwaa comes off a bit early there as he was surging forward towards the end. Good job by both drivers here. As the rain is really coming down hard now, it's going to change the grip level on this track, and what I was saying earlier, the slight aquaplaning issue is going to come into effect. But let's see what these two drivers are able to do here in the second run of this battle. Looking at Benjamin up front, he gets out wide to outside zone 1. He puts his tire right on the rumble strip. You can see Shinji's right there with him. Does a good job on outside zone 2. So in the lead-to-lead comparison, it looks like Benjamin might have a bit of an advantage as he was doing a better job in those positions. In the chase, it might look like Shinji has the advantage there. So it's going to be hard to find a real winner throughout this battle.
Well, we've seen two one more time so far in the top 32. Seemingly by your comments, Ryan, it's a close battle here, and the other judges are obviously putting in their results independently, so we don't know until we actually see the scores up on the board. And here we go. Let's make it official. We got a one more time from Brian Eggert. I'll run one more time from Ryan Lantain, and so that's going to secure it. But Robbie Nishida gives us a split decision there. He goes for Shinji Miiniwaa, so just edging out Benjamin Chiam. But it will be one more time. So Fukada will have to wait a few more minutes to find out who he's going to compete against in the top 16. And while we wait for that, we'll move on right to the next battle. Shinichiro Saito, the number 6 qualifier, going up against Tomohiro Murayama. He qualified number 27. So rain really coming down. You may even be able to hear it in the background because it is very loud in our booth. We're basically in a kind of structured, semi-structured 10 by 20 with a sloped roof and plastic all around us so the equipment doesn't get wet. So we're heavily reliant. In fact, we're actually almost totally reliant on the exact shots that you guys are seeing through the live stream there. Everything that the judges call up in the replay is sent out on the live stream. So we are watching along with you in almost exactly the same way. We can see the track, we can see through the plastic, we can see what's going on, but you don't have the resolution or the granularity because of all the rain that's coming down. So it is quite challenging for us to see what's going on outside of what's being broadcast to us on monitors that are here in the tower. All right, so both cars up at the grid now. Off to the right, the higher qualifier, Shinichiro Saito, and Tomohiro Miiniwaa off to the left.
Our start grid guys must be completely soaked by now. They're
Look
just
at
out there working
look at his
hard.
pants.
Yeah. No umbrella, no rain gear, nothing. Just getting poured on all day. That's a miserable place to be in, but they're doing their jobs.
Well,
Good for them.
when has anybody here in Japan ever not worked hard?
And has ever complained. Good for them.
All right, Saito in the lead. Oh, Miiniwaa gets an early start there, getting the car to angle. He falls off a little bit, doesn't keep pace with Saito. Saito's going to go 1, 2, 3, and there's going to be contact at outside zone 1 rather. And Ryan, last night you guys were very consistent. 3 tires off was an incomplete in every situation. It looks like that we're going to see that here. And with the wider line being drawn by Saito, I have to assume that you guys are going to be looking at that intensely.
Yeah, it looks like he did it complete first. He went all 4 tires off. And that is not a decel zone. Our decel zone here at this track is really at outside zone 2. So it's going to be hard to tell if he was actually decelling, but definitely 4 wheels off, straightening up, and that chase car getting into him and opening his passenger door at the same time as he did it. That was an interesting little collision that we had there. So this will be a different view altogether for you guys to check out now. This will be the view from the back, so we'll be able to see exactly what occurred from more or less, the chase driver's perspective as he's coming up behind the lead driver.
Saito's going to go 1, 2, 3, and there's going to be contact at inside. So it looks like he was following him offline, which he should be doing. He made a little bit of adjustment to not get out there, but at first glance, it looks like with how far the Saito went off, Miiniwaa really didn't have anywhere to go. So we do have to ascertain fault. I assume that it is going to be fault to Saito, which means if there is damage that needs to be repaired to Miiniwaa, he would be able to take up to 10 minutes, and then he could utilize his competition timeout. But driving back on course, at least it looks relatively okay. Definitely some cosmetic damage. But
a couple of parts laying out there, looks like.
A couple of parts laying out there, yeah. Any further insight from you, Ryan?
Yeah, just looking at who would be assessed fault for that collision if fault was to be established. And as you were pointing out, I think to establish fault would be to give the driver not at fault a little bit more time to fix his car and also not have to use a competition timeout. And in this case, we all agreed that the lead driver there was at fault for going 4 wheels off offline. So that would be Saito being at fault, going 4 wheels off, the chase car following him, and then it looked like the lead car slowed considerably at that point in time and gave the chase car nowhere to go. The chase driver was following him. He was going where he was supposed to. He was treating that lead driver as the moving clipping point that we all tell them to do.
Well, no question, there's not a lot of grip, if any at all, on the wet grass, so you can see how the forward momentum would stop there. So the mistake resulting in an incomplete for Shinichiro Saito. It'll be a big opportunity here to overcome the higher qualified driver and get himself into the top 16, but he's in good position to do so. And as the safety vehicle heads off the course, after replacing those course markers, we should be told what's going to happen. And there we go. We're getting it set up here. Miiniwaa does not need to utilize much time. And at this point, Saito would need to come to the line pretty immediately. Otherwise, he would have to utilize his competition timeout.
It looks like one of the track staff over there, maybe just securing some body panels to make sure that he's safe to run this next part of the battle. Looks like he's giving a thumbs up. He's going to loop the car around and get back into line in the chase position this time.
All right, so we know that this is on paper, it's relatively easy for Miiniwaa to get the win here. He just has to not incomplete in the lead position. But again, how many times have we said that and then something like that happens?
Exactly. So let's not say it, Ryan.
All right. Here we go. Second half of the battle after the incomplete by Shinichiro Saito. Miurayama, midline approach. He's going to crank it early. Gets to angle 3, 2, 1. And also Saito is at the angle by that point. He's got a lot of work to do. He's got to put pressure on Miurayama, force an air here, but Saito is going to spin out in the middle of the track. Miurayama still needs to finish the course. And as we pan way out, you're going to see he's going to get through it there. That'll be a win for Tomohiro Miurayama. It's an upset. The 27th place qualifier defeats the 6th place qualifier.
Yes, you can see in that run that Saito in the chase incompleted on 3 different levels. He straightened, he spun out, and he went 4 wheels off. So that's a solid incomplete from him. In the lead position, Miurayama does an okay job of getting through the course. Gets out to outside zone 1 relatively well, right on that white line. Transitions for outside zone 2, and that's where Saito makes his big mistake. So you can see he straightens, then he spins, then he backs the car off track and goes 4 wheels off. You can see Miurayama on the right side of the screen there going towards the finish line and completing the course.
And there we go, making it official. Tomohiro Miurayama moves on against car 328 Shinichiro Saito. Just 2 battles left to go. The one more time between Shinji Miiniwaa and Benjamin Chiam, which we will now see. And then we'll close out the top 32 with Yusuke Kusaba and Hidehiko Sujita. And just a reminder, we will quickly get into the top 16. After this, we'll take a 15-minute break as we are excluding the traditional halftime break to try to get ourselves the best possible weather. But let's get these battles done first. Here's the one more time. Miiniwaa out of the gate. Gets it going early. Benjamin Chiam falling back a little bit, had a slight adjustment there before the 3rd standing cone, but now we're in the move. Really heavy winds up here, up top. You have to wonder how it's affecting the drivers. Great job by Miiniwaa through that inside clip. Benjamin Chiam is way far back and not in play there. So Miiniwaa was able to get a jump on Chiam. He did not cut the course, and it looked like he put himself in a good position here to follow up with an advantage in the lead.
Yeah, you're right, Ryan. In the lead position, Shinji Miiniwaa did a great job. It looked like in the chase there, Benjamin Chiam was trying to maintain proximity, but just can't match the pace of Shinji Miiniwaa. So Shinji does a good job on 1 and 2. Could have been a little deeper on 2, but not too bad on inside clip 1. And that's, again, just like in the first battle where Benjamin Chiam is going to fall behind and not really ever catch up. So now that we are going to switch positions as the rain and winds pick up, we're going to have Benjamin lead, and this is a big opportunity for Shinji Miiniwaa. He just has to put together a relatively close chase run, maintain proximity, and stay in drift behind him. And hopefully that will give us a clearer indication of who the winner is this time. So no more one more times for these guys. Let's get a winner here as the weather is quickly deteriorating.
Unbelievable car fans out here this weekend at Fuji Speedway. Tons of cars, 86 Fest going on, all in these crazy wet conditions. And as we get towards the latter part of the top 32, the rain is kicking up once again, along with the wind this time.
And now we're getting wet inside. Your laptop okay over there, Ryan?
Yeah, well, I've dried it once already,
okay.
This top 32 at the beginning before you guys came in. So, yeah, hopefully it's not fried. Otherwise, might have a problem getting the stream out. Because I'm controlling it. See right here, if I click those buttons off, it goes bye-bye.
Turn it off. Don't let your computer get hurt, Ryan. Here we go. Is that a red flag I saw? Or maybe not. Maybe it's just the wind picking up his flag in the background.
Looks like a clean start there. No, I see some slowing.
No, they're initiated. What's going on?
Yeah, that was a little confusion there. Into that first outside zone is Benjamin Chiam into the second.
Yeah, it was a restart.
Yeah, so they didn't see it. You know, with all the rain, I actually don't really blame them.
Yeah.
But
and
you know, they won't need to change their tires.
At least there's that. Yeah, it could be a visibility issue with the light. The light could be fried because it got completely soaked. Who knows?
Ah.
You know, the light, for everybody's information, is on the 3 cone. So if you are watching the initiation area, you'll see 3 cones, then 2 cones, and 1 cone. That 1 cone is the latest initiation point. If you go to the 3 cone, right on top of that, the light has been attached to the top of the 3 cone, and that light is about the same width as all 3 cones lined up together. So it's a big, wide, very, very bright LED, and it could be either, like I said, it's invisible because of the fog, the wind, the rain in the car, hitting the windshield, or it got completely soaked and has been fried, or the wind knocked it over, or who knows at this point what it could be, because we can't see it from where we are, and I don't think anybody else can either. It's kind of halfway around that corner, so the start line can't really see it, and we can't see it either from here. So I did see that red flag being waved in the background there as they left the line. That was just in the corner, in the corner of the camera's view there, in the corner of the screen. But clearly the drivers aren't looking in their rearview mirrors. They're hoping to see that flashing light coming up ahead, but clearly they didn't see it this time.
All right, so we will get the drivers back to the starting line for the repeat of this second run. And thankfully, one benefit of these wet conditions is the lack of the need to change tires. A lot of times, in dry conditions, that'll mean pretty much change tires.
You're right. But I think that's a big benefit to this rain for the whole weekend. Yeah, you can see the red flag right away. So somebody jumped the line there or parked on the light, one or the other. So the lead driver is supposed to leave the light when it goes off. Oh, 1 second, I'm getting some information. Okay, some big information here that's going to have a big effect on this run is that Benjamin Chiam stalled at the start line. So we're trying to get confirmation about that to see if that's indeed what happened, but it looks like he stalled at the start line, restarted his car, and then got going. So that would explain what happened. In that case, it would be a combination of stall and park on the light.
Now, that would not be a strike.
No, that would be a full incomplete in that area. It's just like your car turning off anywhere on the track. If your car shuts off going through a corner or the car brakes or something like that, then that's an incomplete. So let's watch here. Yeah, you can see the car, he jumps, it stops going, then you can see it start, and then he goes ahead. So that is indeed what happened. So Shinji is going to get the win automatically there, as Benjamin did stall on the line. That is an incomplete every single time. That's just like a car failure, a driver failure. It's like if you miss a shift in a corner or something like that, right? If you miss a shift, the car straightens. We're not going to give you a retry on that because you misshifted. That is strictly a driver error, and in this case, stalling on the line is a really big driver error. So that'll be an incomplete from him, which will give the win to Shinji Miiniwaa.
Well, that is really disappointing that we did not get to see the full accounting there of that battle. And unfortunately for Benjamin Chiam, after a tough night last night in qualifying on one of his runs and a one more time battle here, he will be knocked out of competition by Shinji Miiniwaa, or in part by the vehicle and whatever happened there at the start line where it turned off and he had to turn it back on. He stalled, not exactly sure, but nonetheless, he did not have a complete start there that led to that incomplete.
You're right, and it's not a rule that we necessarily enjoy enforcing, but we do need to be fair to these drivers. They are out there pushing as hard as they can, and if a driver makes an error like that, even though it's near the beginning of the battle, that you might not think it has a big consequence, but it does, and that'll really throw off the chase drivers, so we have to give that incomplete.
One battle left to go. Yusuke Kusaba and Hidehika Shujita will take a quick commercial break and come back right here to Fuji Speedway at round 3 of the G-Shock Presents Formula Drift Japan Championship.
実証雨に強いタイヤ。横浜は濡れた路面であなたの想像以上に止まる、止まる、止まる。日本最高グレードのウェット性能 A をあなたの車に。雨に強いタイヤといえば
横浜。
革新のカーボンベゼル。 Bluetooth 搭載 G-SHOCK カシオ。
The brightness called brilliant. Valenti.
Quality of Japanese craftsmanship. Brilliant.
What's up, guys? It's Frederick Gaspo, and I use RSR suspension on all my drift cars. I love RSR. Iyo RSR Ichiban.
Kenda.
伝統と革新小倉クラッチのテクノロジーを凝縮チャンピオンを取るためのクラッチ小倉レーシングクラッチ ORC
The brightness called brilliant, blinding and vivid. Valenti.
実証雨に強いタイヤ。横浜は濡れた路面であなたの想像以上に止まる止まる止まる。日本最高グレードのウェット性能 A をあなたの車に。雨に強いタイヤといえば
横浜。
革新のカーボンベゼル。Bluetooth 搭載 G-SHOCK カシオ。
The brightness called brilliant. Valenti.
All right, and we're back here at the G-SHOCK Presents Formula Drift Japan Championship Round 3 Fuji Speedway. We've come to the conclusion of the top 32. If you're just joining us, we've got one battle left, Yusuke Kusaba versus Hidehiko Tsujita, and then we will end the top 32. But as we mentioned, we are going to have a quick turnaround going right into the top 16 because of the pending typhoon and crazy weather conditions that we are trying to avoid. So there was the official result before we got to the break. We saw Benjamin Chiam stall at the line, have to restart the vehicle, gave the win to Shinji Miiniwaa. So he will be moving on. He'll be facing Tadahiro Fukada in the top 16. And once we get done here, we'll do a quick 15-minute reset, and then we will come back for top 16 ceremonies in order to try to get as much competition done as we can while we still have relatively good conditions. And I use that term very, very lightly because the winds have really kicked up. The rain is coming down, but it's supposed to get way, way worse later. And so the elimination of the halftime here is going to allow us to get into the broadcast. So it'll actually be good for everybody watching back home because you won't have to wait 3 hours for the next portion of the show. You'll be able to get right back into it. Well, let's get to this battle at hand. Number 11 and 22 qualifier respectively. Kusaba takes the lead against Tsujita. He's going to get out to a good jump. Nice angle. Very early initiation before those 3 standing cones there. And pretty well executed on that first outside zone. You can see the slickness here. And it's going to be a spin in the chase. So let's keep an eye on the lead. He does need to finish the run without incompleting. And he's going to do that. So he's going to have an advantage with a complete run there himself. Let's take a look, Ryan, what happened to Tsujita. He started falling behind, but ultimately the spin is what caused the incomplete.
Yeah, Tsujita, not Laurel, did make a fatal error in his chase run. But let's look at the beginning of the run here, where you have Kusaba leading and getting out wide. We're going to restart that. There we go. Going out wide to outside zone 1, getting on the rumble strip. And it looks like in the chase position, Tsujita does the same on that rumble strip, but just never is able to rotate the car back. He's just not able to get from that high degree of angle that he was holding because, I'm guessing, of the painted rumble strip. The rear of the car started to rotate more than he anticipated on that slippery painted surface, and he could not recover. So he ended up kind of doing a half spin there and not being able to complete his chase run. So that gives Kusaba a big advantage now going into his chase run. Essentially all Kusaba needs to do now is follow Tsujita and not incomplete, and he could potentially win this battle. Now in the lead position, Tsujita's got to do a pretty solid lead. He's got to get out on that rumble strip at outside zone 1. He's got to get out wide onto outside zone 2 and complete that course with good angle, not do any corrections, and just hold it together there in the lead. But he needs to hope that in the chase position, Kusaba makes some kind of error that will be considered an incomplete, just like he did in his chase. If that occurs, both chases, having incompletes, then we will go to the lead runs to compare those and see who does the better job there.
All right, so both drivers back at the line. Our final battle here in the top 32. We made it this far. We didn't know if we were going to. This time Tsujita is going to take the lead. Kusaba probably wisely give him a little bit of space here, try to reel him in towards the end. Tsujita mid-line, 3, 2, 1. Both drivers sideways way before the third standing cone. Tsujita is going to come up a bit short on that outside zone, so not starting off well here. Slow transition to outside zone, which he holds for a long period of time. There could be a pass on the inside there. That was an inside zone or an inside clip that could be passed if the lead driver was to go wide, and Tsujita actually shuts it down before the last inside clip. That is going to be all she wrote, Ryan. And Tsujita was going very slow towards the end there.
Yeah, so Tsujita ended up incompleting in both the chase and the lead positions. That'll give him a sure loss there. There's no way to come back from that, really. Kusaba did not incomplete in his lead, and in his chase, Kusaba, despite that imperfect lead from Tsujita, was able to put together a fairly decent chase run as well. So you can see here that he is mimicking him, although doing so from a distance. You can see the transition was actually well-timed to match Tsujita's, and Tsujita, because he's so late on outside zone 2, gives Kusaba the opportunity to get really close to him there. And you could almost hear, live here, Tsujita was revving up quite a bit. I don't know if there was a missed shift or the lack of a shift that he should have made. Maybe he was on the red line, but either way, the car straightened up, drove over the finish line, and Kusaba does get the unanimous win here.
All 3 judges going to car 938. Yusuke Kusaba wrapping up here our top 32. And as we said, just one final reminder, we will close up the broadcast here, have a 15-minute reset approximately. And if you are watching in the U.S. or in North America and want to brave into the wee hours with us, we will be back on the Formula Drift website and also on both Formula Drift USA page and the Formula Drift Japan page. The Japanese broadcast will be on formuladjp with external links going out to their YouTube channels. So expect that we will be back in around 15 minutes or so. Keep an eye on the broadcast. We will close things up here for the top 32. Prepare for the top 16 opening ceremonies in just a few minutes as we go to commercial break. See you guys soon.